I'll be signing a bill, the first in the nation, saying enough. To ICE, unmasked. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of?
And there he is, Gavin Newsom, the CEL of the Democrat Party. And that would be the chief executive liar. He is so full of crap and so full of himself that he actually believes that people listening to him believe anything he's saying. And Democrats say they care about law enforcement safety, yet they want to strip officers of the one thing that they have for protection working undercover, the ability to wear masks. Why? Because in the view of the warped-minded Democrats, the men and women who keep our streets safe are the enemy, not the criminals. Let me break it down, but first I want to show you the rest of that Gavin Newsom clip, so have a look.
What are you afraid of? If you're going to go out and you're going to do enforcement, provide an ID. Tell us which agency you represent. Provide us basic information that all local law enforcement is required to provide. Have the decency not to threaten people as they go to school, to go out the parking lots proximate to these schools to create chill, packed attendance. We talked to these kids. They were saying, one of you said, I've got friends, they don't go on the metro anymore. It's a public space.
Have the decency to provide ID. People are afraid to go to school because, according to Gavin Newsom, the immigration agents are kidnapping people, or kids, I should say, off the street, when we all know that's a crock of shit. And what Gavin Newsom doesn't talk about is the majority of the time when the police, let's say, do a car stop, and they ask the driver for an ID. How many times have you seen a video where the driver outright refuses to identify themselves? But Gavin's okay with that. He's okay with criminals not identifying themselves. But he wants law enforcement officers to basically, yeah, here's my driver's license and my address. Here's where I live. So in case you have a thing against me, you know where to find me. The Democrats are pathetic. Across this country, Democrat lawmakers are introducing or supporting proposals that would prevent law enforcement from wearing face coverings, whether for riot control, tactical operations, or even simple anonymity in high-risk situations. They frame it as a transparency issue because the Democrats are so transparent. You know that, right? They claim that the public has a right to see every officer's face in every situation. But the reality is, the same Democrats who push for criminals to wear masks during COVID are the same Democrats who cheer on Antifa when they riot under black masks. And the same Democrats who look the other way when the violent agitators cover their faces while torching businesses. Yet when it comes to the police, suddenly masks are the problem. And if you recall, during COVID, Gavin Newsom was one of the first politicians in this country to force residents to wear masks. And in the meantime, while all his residents had to stay home, he was sneaking out to private parties and private affairs in restaurants. That's what kind of person Gavin Newsom is. He is the ultimate fraud of a Democrat. He is nothing but a liar. Everything he says is untrue. He has turned California into an outright wasteland. But he's not the only one. There's a whole slew of other Democrats demanding that law enforcement stop wearing masks. So have a look at this.
Every single ICE agent who's engaged in this aggressive overreach, no matter what it takes, no matter how long it takes, will of course be identified. This is not the 1930s.
Secret police who are masked, who are intimidating, who are scaring people. These Gestapo-like tactics.
This is Gestapo-like behavior.
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets.
When you compare the old films of the Gestapo grabbing people off the streets of Poland, it does look like a Gestapo operation.
You posted on social media that, quote, ICE is acting like a terrorist force.
ICE agents, they are coming and kidnapping and disappearing people on the streets of the United States.
But this terror campaign of having masked people rolling up in vans, but we also have to talk about the agents themselves that are carrying this out. If you have any decency, quit now. Because just doing what you were told has been the justification for some of the worst horrors and crimes against humanity.
Masked agents of the state in unmarked vehicles are terrorizing communities. They are disappearing people.
One has to assume they're hiding something, or they're hiding misbehavior, because otherwise, why would they be wearing masks and denying their identities?
If everything is legitimate and proper, why are you wearing masks to hide your face?
Not look like America. We are going to require them to show their faces. If you're not doing anything wrong, you shouldn't have anything to hide.
And there they are, some of the stars of the Democrat Party. Started off with Hakeem Jeffries, Timu Obama. Every agent who's participating in this aggressive overreach. So Hakeem Jeffries thinks immigration agents going out, knowing who they're looking for, and taking them, arresting them, and putting them in a detention center for deportation is aggressive overreach. He's just one of the many Democrats who wants illegals in this country for votes. Then you had several more. They're threatening people. They're acting like Trump's modern-day Gestapo. They're waging a terror campaign. What are we going to do if and when Donald Trump's not president anymore? He can't run again. What happens if another Democrat wins the White House? It goes right back to where it was with Joe Biden. Wide open borders, anyone and everyone coming into the country unvetted, thousands upon thousands of known criminals. But the Democrats are against the Trump administration removing these people from our country. But not one Democrat had a problem with Barack Obama deporting over 3 million people. None of them. They chaired it. They all got on the news. These people don't belong in our country. If you came into this country illegally, you are a criminal. You'll be caught and sent back. So President Trump is doing this, and they're all up in arms. Why? Like I always say, the Democrats have nothing. They have nothing to show. They are a bunch of frauds. All they do is go after President Trump. They did it his first 4 years when he was in office, and they're doing it now. And then I had a laugh when you see Tim Walz, the great Tim Walz there with his graduation garb on. Tim Walz said it also, that the ICE agents are Trump's modern-day Gestapo. But Tim Walz fails to mention that when COVID was around and it was full-blown, everybody had to stay in, nobody could leave, nobody could breathe, you couldn't even look at somebody, you remember, Tim Walz sent out the Minnesota National Guard to patrol streets and make sure people were staying in their homes. So it was okay for Tim Walz to send out his troops to try to punish people for wanting to go outside and get fresh air. But Donald Trump can't use National Guard to fight crime in, say, Washington like he did, or Chicago or New York or what have you. It's bad when Donald Trump does it. But when someone else does it, especially a Democrat, oh, they're all happy, they're cheering. They probably had a party for Tim Walz. They probably gave him a medal. Using his National Guard troops to force people to stay indoors. They couldn't even go on their front porch to get some fresh air. That's how bad Tim Walz is. But they want you to believe that Donald Trump is kidnapping kids, taking them away from families, and we all know about all the kids who were separated from their families when Barack Obama, again, deported 3 million people, but the Democrats had no problem with that. And they say it's all about transparency. This is about intimidation. The left wants officers exposed. They want to put these officers' lives in danger. Any officer who wears a face covering is most likely working undercover or does work undercover. So if they're going out in operations like this, no, they don't want to show their faces, and they shouldn't have to, because that puts their life at risk and it puts their family's life at risk. But the Democrats don't care. They don't care if the officers are harmed. They don't care if the officers' families are harmed, because it's all about transparency. In the era where radical activists track down cops, show up at their homes, target their families, and smear them online, Democrats are making it easier for criminals to know exactly who they're up against. They're not protecting civil liberties. They're enabling mob justice. That's what the Democrat Party is all about, people. We talk about it all the time. Democrats thrive on chaos. If there's no chaos, Democrats are not happy. When Charlie Kirk was assassinated, they expected the right to go crazy and riot and what have you. But none of that happened. So now they're doing this unmask the law enforcement officers. The criminals deserve to see who's arresting them. These people are nothing but hypocrites. The left has no issue with politicians hiding behind armed security. No issue with mass rioters smashing windows. No issue with activists concealing their faces while they harass citizens in the street. But when a cop straps on a protective mask to do their job safely, that's suddenly oppression. That's how hypocritical the Democrats are. And as soon as they realize that all they're doing is harming the officers that work in their states and communities, maybe they'll get it. But apparently they never will, because this morning there was a shooting at the Dallas deportation center. One person, I believe, was killed. A couple were injured. I think they were migrants, but I'm not sure. And the shooter ended up taking his own life. It's radicalization of the left. Now, I'm going to venture to say the shooter was trying to hit agents. Now, I'm just throwing that out there. Just throwing it out there, because all the left wants to protect the migrants. But the shooter sucked, basically. Didn't know how to shoot, so they just started shooting wildly and ended up killing innocent people, even though they were in the country illegally. So at the end of the day, banning masks for police is just another step in the left's war on law and order. They want chaos. They live for it. It's not about protecting citizens. It's about weakening law enforcement and empowering criminals, just like Brandon Johnson does in Chicago. And make no mistake, if they succeed, our communities will be less safe, our officers will be more vulnerable, and America will inch one step closer to lawless streets. And that, again, my friends, is what Democrats want. Well, I'm here to tell you, with President Trump in office, that's not going to happen. He's doing what he was elected to do. The Democrats can cry all they want. They have not a leg to stand on. Their party is done. It's over. And we will never see anything come from a Democrat again, because every single policy they have ever put out of Congress has failed.